Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Inside the Headset, presented by University of Utah Health, the official healthcare provider of the Utes and you. I'm Mike Lagerschultz, and we want to thank all of our season ticket holders for joining us. We appreciate your support during this global pandemic, and just as a way of for us to show our appreciation to you, we wanted to give you some football talk. The last couple of Fridays, we had Morgan Scally on last Friday, and listen, it's an election year. We need to be balanced with what we're presenting. So Andy Ludwig saw that Morgan was on and demanded he get some time this Friday. Well, actually, it was scheduled anyway, but you can kind of go with whatever story you want to. But we're happy to have Andy with us, the offensive coordinator for the Utes. Andy, thanks for joining us, and how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm excited to talk to you and this group of fans. And I cannot tell you how much we appreciate your support and look forward to all of us getting back to doing what we love. And again, I look forward to talking with you today.
All right. Sounds good. Great to have you with us, Andy. By the way, for those of you tuning in on YouTube, the chat function is enabled. So go ahead and send us your questions. We'll get to those as we work our way through the next 30 minutes or so. You know, Andy, I'll kind of start with kind of the topic of the day is just how everyone is dealing with life during this shutdown. You guys got about 3 practices into your spring practice schedule, and then things were shut down. So I guess everything since then has been sort of abnormal and kind of learn as you go along. How are you and the staff adjusting to life, working from home and being away from your guys?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that the pandemic has brought about some technological gains for us individually and collectively as a coaching staff and player wise with the use of Zoom and having to adjust some of our teaching methods on that. But it's the way it is. It's a matter of fact. So we're making those adjustments and without a doubt trying to make the absolute most of this opportunity. And that's what we have to look at it as a chance to really dive into some of our installation, our plays and the details of the plays and asking our players to grasp it remotely. And then once we get them here to Salt Lake, then going to work on the field.
From what Morgan told us last week, the schedule's a little bit different this year. Normally you have your spring practice, you kind of shut things down for finals, and then the guys have a bit of a break. But with the way things have been this year, you've been allowed to be in communication and still schedule Zoom meetings and do some things with the guys to sort of work, as you said, on that install of the offense and the playbook and so forth. So maybe just walk us through what your schedule's been like with the players during the past, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and when it first kicked off, we weren't sure exactly what we were getting into, so we had some very general, offensively, some very general meetings in the month of April, just reviewing plays, the first 3 practices that we had in the spring, but then continuing to detail fundamentals, alignments, techniques via the Zoom in the month of April of the offense. Then when May came about, the NCAA started allowing 8 hours per week. Initially, it was 4 hours in April, but then when it went to 8 hours per week, we said, okay, we got to take advantage, make the most of this opportunity. So we actually are going through our fall installation schedules. We're allowed 8 hours a week by NCAA rules. We have to accommodate within those 8 hours a team meeting that Coach Witt holds once a week, a special teams meeting. But I'm meeting with the quarterbacks about 6 hours a week, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and going through our fall installation schedule. Today, I just finished the quarterback meeting. It was install 6. We were down inside the 10-yard line, so we're going through a list of plays there, looking at the PowerPoint diagrams, then going to the videotape and just talking football. So it is different, but again, the thing that we talked about as an offense and an offensive staff is that we know what May's all about. We got 8 hours a week in May. Let's make the absolute most of this opportunity because I don't know what June's going to bring. I don't know, but I know what I have in May. Let's make the absolute most of it. And then we're asking the players, hey, we just have to make sure that we come out of May knowing what to do. And you may not know exactly how to do it because that's practice reps. That's on the field. That's body learning. That's
Right.
muscle memory. But if we can come into fall camp knowing what to do and where to line up, then we can really focus on the fundamentals, the details, the nuances of executing the plays. And again, I just see that we got to look at it as an opportunity to make the absolute most of it.
If I'm hearing you and Morgan right the last 2 weeks, it's actually been pretty good in terms of productivity with you guys to have that much time, 8 hours per week to have the Zoom meetings, to have some conversations, to watch film online, to do things. It sounds like it's been a pretty productive stretch for the offense and defense. Am I hearing that right from both of you?
It's unique. It's unique in that it's all instant. You're not going back to watch practice film from yesterday's practice. It's all about here's what's going in now,
Right.
and really a chance to deep dive into certain topics that you may not be able to get quite as in depth with, during a spring practice, during a fall camp. But some things that you don't want to take for granted as a football coach, some general football knowledge that you have a chance to really address with your guys, and especially the younger players, getting them really caught up and up to speed.
Visiting with Andy Ludwig, the offensive coordinator for the Utes on Inside the Headset, brought to you by University of Utah Health, official healthcare provider for the Utes and you. We appreciate you joining us. Andy, the question we get from fans is, how are the players doing? I mean, obviously to have spring practice start, to go on spring break, and then not to come back to campus and have to be at home has been a major adjustment. So they went through classes online to finish the spring semester, but just really an upheaval to their normal patterns that as you've talked to your guys the past few weeks. How are they doing? How are they adjusting mentally and physically? How are they doing in terms of staying in shape and just kind of staying sharp with everything on their own?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is that academically, this entire football team did an unbelievable job handling their business remotely. And I know Coach Whitting, I know there'll be some formal recognition of that moving forward, but the entire football team did a fantastic job academically in the spring semester, adjusting on the fly to remote learning, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of the players' mental health or mental well-being, the guys, like all of us, are just adjusting and learning on the fly. The one thing we continue to talk about is you don't know when again in your life you're going to have this opportunity for as much family time as you're getting, and enjoy it, because when football starts now, it's going to be all ball. There's no, I don't see going home for the 4th of July break now. So
Right.
if we're back and probably not leaving. So enjoy this opportunity with your family, make the absolute most of it. Uh, Physically, health, our offensive players I know are all healthy and good to go, staying virus free, etc. In terms of strength conditioning, Coach Elisai, our strength and conditioning coach, is sending out weekly workout packages. Most of our players do have access to some type of weight room facility, whether that weight room's in their garage or backyard or what have you. Most of the guys have that. And then those that don't, Coach Elisai has just sent out exercise band resistance bands for training. But I know they're running. I know the quarterbacks are throwing the football. They might be throwing it to their dad or their little brother or whatever, but at least they're getting some throws in.
Yeah, I read last week that Jack Bentley and his family built a squat rack out of wood that's in their garage, and also a bench to get some work in. So guys are being innovative and they're finding ways to get it done. Andy, I want to talk to you about yourself a little bit. I was surprised last summer. You and I had a headshot session set up, and you came down and you had a lot of things going on. You had an administrative assistant with you, and you were breaking down film already for the upcoming fall's games. I know summer and spring is really busy for you, but you've been out of the office just like everyone else trying to get some work done at home. So in terms of your rhythm and workflow, how have things been for you the past 4 to 6 weeks?
Well, it's an adjust. I like going to work. I like the office.
Yep.
So there's been some separation anxiety, I guess. But, we load up the laptops, and so we take all the video stuff, all our paperwork. Obviously, we're working from home, and it is an adjustment. I'm afraid, I like to come into the office early. I'm not getting up quite as early when I'm at home, but it is still a full work day. And I think a lot of people may find it the way that I do. You actually find yourself almost more busy than you normally would be, whether
Right.
you're creating your own stress level or what have you. But uh, these days, the preparation for those meetings, for the 8 hours a week with the players, or I don't take all 8 with the quarterbacks, but the 6 hours with the quarter, that's a tremendous amount of preparation time, because you got to make those meetings concise and detailed and to the point, because we're trying to make the most of this opportunity. So it's an adjustment for all of us. but I do get out and work out when I want to work out. I'm not on any schedule, so that's I guess the biggest positive of it.
Yeah, it's been an adjustment for all of us. But like I said, even during the offseason, I know you coaches are working away. You have things slotted to do every year at the same time, and that's been disrupted as well. But we're all just kind of adjusting on the fly and making the best of it. Visiting with Andy Ludwig, the Utah offensive coordinator. Today's show brought to you by University of Utah Health, the healthcare provider for the Utes and you. Our chat function is turned on YouTube, so go ahead and send your questions in as we work our way through the Friday lunch hour on this edition of Inside the Headset. Well, Andy, let's jump into the team this year a little bit. Everyone wants to know about the skill position guys. I mean, the good news is you have 7 starters back for those guys on the offensive line, a couple of really good tight ends that are back with you, as well as 1 receiver in terms of starters. But everyone wants to know about the quarterbacks. And when you lose a guy like Tyler Huntley, a first-team All-Pac-12 selection a year ago, he's now with the Baltimore Ravens as a free agent pickup, but that's a heavy loss. However, the good news is you have 3 guys that were ready to go to battle in spring camp. They never really got too much into it, but junior Drew Lisk is back. Also, redshirt sophomore Cameron Rising, a guy who transferred from Texas a year ago, former 4-star recruit, and also grad transfer Jake Bentley from South Carolina, who has come in. In fact, he arrived on campus before spring classes started in January. So those are the 3 guys we were hearing about in spring. Just kind of break down this group for us and tell us how you go about this process of trying to replace a first-team all-conference quarterback in Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is those 3 young men, I don't know, well, I do know for a fact, I've never been in a better quarterback room in terms of players as into it, as focused, as smart, and it's great work. Again, there's 3 guys that knocked it out of the park academically in the spring, so I'm fired up about that. But they were off to a very good start the first 3 practices. We went on spring break. I was chomping at the bit to get back to work with them. Obviously, that changed, and they're doing a great job with the remote learning and studying studying the plan and going through the process as such. But Drew Lisk, who's a redshirt senior, was having a very good spring camp for us. He has, without a doubt, the most mastery of what we're doing offensively, was doing a very good job distributing the football early in spring. Cam Rising was with us as a redshirt last year, so he knows the system, didn't have as many reps within our particular system because he was running the scout team all year. But he is a very dynamic player that did a lot of exciting things with the football, is able to extend plays and make some things happen. Jake Bentley came in, again, a football junkie, son of a college football coach, so has been around the game his entire life. Very quick learner in terms of system mastery. And the thing that showed up with Jake is he was just shaking off some of the rust, having not played, having had the foot injury the first game of his senior year
Right.
at South Carolina, was just shaking some rust off. But I'm very excited about working with those 3 young men and watching them compete. And I know the winner of that competition, the Utes, are going to have a dang good quarterback. Very confident of that.
As we talked about, spring practice really limited. So now your fall even more important in terms of your reps and how you get these guys through the process when we do get going. How do you envision this competition playing out? I mean, we talked about the 3 guys. Cal Whittingham mentioned earlier this week, he thought, hey, let's get it down to 2 as quickly as we can in the fall, and then let those 2 guys go until we get about 2 weeks out from that first game, and then try to name a starter. How do you envision, Andy, this quarterback competition playing out in the fall when we do get going with practice?
Well, I'm gonna follow the head coach's lead. That's a good idea. You got to get it narrowed to 2 because you can't rep 3 quarterbacks with the first group. You can rep 2 quarterbacks with the first group, but if you try to get the 3rd guy involved too long, it just waters the rep. It's not fair to the entire group. It will not be an easy task. Those are 3 very good players, 3 very driven players that also exhibit tremendous leadership for the entire offensive unit. But I agree wholesalely with Coach Whittingham's approach. Obviously, the sooner we do it, the better for all of us. You just want to make sure that there's separation and a reason for making somebody the 3rd and then narrowing it down, between the 2 that remain battling for the starting position.
You've got three guys vying for a job that's wide open. The starter in Huntley has left. So Lisk, a guy who stayed around. Obviously, guys sometimes transfer a little bit more easily than they did years ago, but you've got him. And then you had a couple transfer guys and Cameron Rising and Jake Bentley who want to go someplace and they want a chance to start. I mean, once you've made the move once, you want to have a spot that works out for you. So as you talk to these guys in terms of Lisk, hey, staying around to get your chance, for Rising and Bentley to come in and compete for a job, what's your message been to them in terms of selling your program, selling the offense, selling Utah and the Pac-12 conference to these three individuals?
Well, you know, uh, as big a recruit as we had was keeping Drew List because Drew's graduated, so he came
Yep.
back. He'll be in postgraduate or graduate school in the fall, and he's such a well-respected Ute on the team that he's so valuable to us in so many ways. Besides being a super football player, in terms of Cam Rising, his recruiting process, you know, the day I reported to work was Cam's official visit, last January 10th or so, or a year ago, January 10th. And then with Jake Bentley, I had recruited Jake at my previous school at Vanderbilt when he was a high school player in Alabama. And so I had a relationship with he and his dad. And when he decided to make the move, his dad reached out to me at one point once he entered the portal and things like that. And I said, "Hey, we don't have a start. I can't guarantee you anything. I can't guarantee you a starting position, but I can guarantee you there's not a starting quarterback returning." And he's a competitive guy with high aspirations. And again, I'm just so excited about the entire room. And the thing that I will say, they all know what's at stake. They all know there's only one ball and one QB, but that group works very well together. Drew and Jake are actually roommates, so there's some great camaraderie, and that's going to take the Utes a long way.
Question come in here from one of our fans tuning in, Andy. He says, great to hear from you. How are you addressing with the new quarterbacks their need to show a command of the huddle and gain respect to the offense and really becoming a leader of this group? How have you addressed that with those guys?
The first thing is system mastery. You got to know what you're calling when you call it. We operate a lot off the wristband, so you're reading the plays, but you have to have absolute confidence in your voice, in your tone, in your inflection on how you call the play. I often tell them it's more important how you call it than what you're calling. Make sure we may be calling the most simple play there ever is, but you got to call it like it's the best play in football because that's the way it's going to be operated. So I talked to them about knowing the ins and outs, the details of their position, the offensive structure, and exuding that confidence in the huddle. And if you're not quite so confident, even faking it, just fake it and fake it till you make it. So,
Right, right.
part of the deal.
Well, good stuff. Like I said, if I didn't ask about the quarterbacks, I'd be fired as a host of this show because that's what everyone wants to know about. But I want to get into some other areas as well, as we've covered those three guys pretty heavily. And if some more questions come in, we'll get to them on our YouTube chat feature. Let's talk about your running back, Zach Moss, the player of the year in the Pac-12 a year ago, third-team All-American, third-round draft pick by Buffalo. That's a big guy to lose. The big horse is gone, but you had a couple of guys who got some reps last year. Devin Brumfield is back. Also, Jordan Wilmore. Let's talk about the returnees first of all, Andy, with Devin and Jordan. Your thoughts on those two and how they figure into things as we work our way towards fall.
Yeah, Devin, Jordan, and TJ Green has played some snaps for the Utes as well. So I'm very confident in the skill set and the depth at that position. Like the quarterback to an extent, you'd like to see if one of those young men separates himself and becomes the focal point of the backfield, or does it remain or become a backfield by committee? Either way, yeah, we all would like to say this is our workhorse tailback, and then we supplement them with other backs. But I would be very confident and comfortable if it was a 2 or 3 back rotation, and then just really play into the individual strengths and building the scheme around. Asking Jordan may do one thing better than TJ Green. Well, let's feature Jordan a little bit more when we're running these plays, and TJ when we're doing these other things. Um, but I like the talent and I like the depth in that room.
How about some new guys to look out for this season, perhaps?
Two that would Makai Bernard and Ty Jordan. Makai was a redshirt with us last year, so he's been around the program. showed some good things last fall camp, was off to a good start the first 3 days of spring practice. And then Ty Jordan is a newcomer with a dynamic skill set, a guy that can line up in the backfield, could play some slot receiver, do some of the things that we do with those receivers in the run game. So there'll be some spots for those guys. You know, we always say if you have a skill set or a unique talent, well, it's my job to create a play or a series of plays to put you in a position to highlight that skill or ability. And I think, again, the depth and talent level at the tailback position warrants that.
All right, very good. Visiting with Andy Ludwig, the offensive coordinator for the Utes. Today's show being brought to you by University of Utah Health, official healthcare provider of the Utes and you. Well, some of the best news, Andy, about your offense is you've got a couple very talented tight ends coming back. Brant Keithy led this team with 34 catches and 6 touchdowns last year. Cole Fotheringham also played a big role. We kept hearing for years about, hey, we're going to feature the tight ends more. You came in last year and did that, and those guys were very productive for you. Just talk about those two and what they bring back to your offense next fall.
Yeah, I am so excited about those two, and there's some other players at that position as well. But the two returning starters, they've got 2 years experience as starters under their belt, whether they're full-time starter, part-time starter, what have you. But the more that we can have both those tight ends on the field, I think the better off we're going to be. I would really like to see the catches for the tight end position ramp up this year. I think Cole, I think, was at 15 catches last year. I'd like to see him double that. I don't know if we can quite double Brant's catches, but really feature him in a even more multiple than we used him last year. We used him a lot of different ways last year, but he's a football guy. Things come easy to him. It doesn't take a lot of reps for him to figure things out. So, but two dynamic skill sets. Cole, more traditional line of scrimmage tight end, but very good in the short, intermediate pass receiving game. Very physical runner once he has the football. Very good at blocking the line of scrimmage. Brant, a little bit more versatile, using him behind the line of scrimmage, motioning and things like that, and then detach them as a wideout. But they give you a chance to be creative on offense.
All right. I'll talk to you about fall in just a few moments here and how we kind of gear up for the season. But before we do that, Andy, I want to go back in time with you a little bit. You were here the first time from 2005 to 2008, and that Sugar Bowl season so magical in 08. After you left here, you spent time at Cal, San Diego State, Wisconsin with Gary Anderson, a former Utah staffer. Also, you went to Vanderbilt. So I know Cal Whittingham reached out to you a few times and said, hey, would you come back now that we're in the Pac-12, and tried a few times to make that move. And finally, you said yes this last time around. What was it about the state of the program and where you were as a coach that made you said yes to Cal Whittingham for a return to Utah a little over a year ago?
Well, I got tired of moving. I'm looking for a spot, and those moves I generated most of them on my own. But I know what Coach Whittingham's all about. I know what Utah football is all about. And as I discussed it with my wife, it's like, hey, let's just go somewhere and ride it out. And I know and do everything we can, invest fully in the university, in the football program, in the community. And we have strong affinity towards Salt Lake and the state of Utah and the geographical area. And again, with so much respect for Coach Whittingham and all he's accomplished as a head coach while I was here, since I've left, since I've been back, I get so much respect and appreciation for the way he does business. It was just the right time. And I'm ecstatic that he gave me the opportunity to come back.
When you were here the first time, you and I would meet about once a week to kind of go over the game plans. I was calling the games, and you were so willing to share your time with me, which I appreciated. But the thing that kind of jumped out to me was not just your preparation, but kind of the way you approached an offense. Some guys are a pro style guys. Some guys are spread. You tend to really tailor your offense according to your personnel, which to me, I think has been just wonderful. And we saw that work so well last year. In terms of your overall offensive approach, Andy, where did that come from? How did it evolve over the years to where it is right now?
Well, I think a lot of it does stem from, moving around a little bit in the profession and growing in the profession and going into a new school and seeing what you have to work with. I mean, maybe one of the best examples would be when I first came to Utah in 2005. Well, I was coming from the University of Oregon and Fresno State. We were a pro style football team, fullbacks and tight ends.
Right.
And I came into Utah and there was no fullbacks and tight ends on the roster. They were a spread team. I said, well, I better learn the spread. And then fast forward, 6 or 7 years later, and I'm at the University of Wisconsin, and they're loaded with fullbacks and tight ends. So you just kind of adjust, and I take a lot of pride in that. I think that's a big part of my job description is identifying the strengths of the individuals within the program and designing the offense to highlight those strengths. Again, it's not like there's a million different plays. You just say we're gonna feature these concepts and let these guys go to work. And so yeah, there's a very big contrast between where we were against the University of Alabama, being as spread can be back in the day.
Right.
X amount of years later at the University of Wisconsin, which was anti-spread, there was one wide receiver on the field most of the time. And then this past year, somewhere in between those two, so it's just, it's all about the players. It's all about
Yeah.
the players.
Well, it's great to have you back. I was so excited when I heard about the hire. I'm like, this worked well the first time. It seemed like you and Coach Witt were in sync in terms of what you want to do with the offense and your philosophy. And it worked out obviously pretty well last year with the Utes winning their second straight Pac-12 South championship. Let's look forward to fall a little bit, Andy. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of questions about when do we get started and when does quote unquote fall camp get going? When does really the summer conditioning program on campus get going? So the time frame we keep hearing is 6 to 8 weeks, which means hey, if we can get people back on campus in mid-July, we've got a chance to start the season on time for that September 3rd opener against BYU on a Thursday. If not, then we maybe push back to an opener in October. But in terms of you as a coach, we don't know the date right now, but when they come to you and say, okay, this is when we start, how does that 6 to 8 week ramp up look for you in terms of what to do with the guys on a daily basis getting ready to play the 2020 football season?
Well, it's I hear all, like everybody else, you hear different things, and if you don't like what you hear today, wait till tomorrow. So I'm just waiting for the final word saying
Yep.
here's the starting point. Obviously, working with the head coach and the administration, all that stuff, and then from there, designing and implementing the plan. If it's a 6 week window, how much time is just strength and conditioning? Well, that's going to be the head coach and the strength coach working it out. Do we get on the field with the players before fall camp start? Okay, that's a different model that we would follow. How much of what we did last summer would translate in if it became an 8 week preparation? So there's things that we can draw from that we have done in the past and use those experiences. Then there's other things, obviously, that we're prepared to say, all right, we have 4 weeks. What's that going to look like? Well, that one's going to be a first timer, so we'll have to adjust that as we see fit. So there's some models that I have scratched out on paper, but I'm just waiting for the word. And then when the word comes, we will put together the best possible plan and put our players in a position to stay safe and execute at a high level.
There's been so much conversation, as you mentioned, Andy, about the various scenarios. Sports Illustrated had a big article a couple days ago where they talked to some conference commissioners and some other people. And I think the optimism is as high as ever about getting this season going at some point this fall. A couple of questions that have come in from our fans, Andy, and you can answer or not. They're kind of out of your area. But one question coming from a fan asking, hey, your thoughts on playing potentially in front of no fans, and also the Pac-12. I guess the idea has been forward about a conference-only schedule of just 11 conference-only games in the fall to get the season going. Your thoughts on those two scenarios and how they might impact your team?
I just want to play. I
Yep.
want to coach and I want to play. Obviously, the fan experience, especially at the University of Utah, is unlike anything in the country. It's unbelievable. It's awesome. Got so much appreciation for our fan support. But in the end, my job, I like the X's and O's, and I like working with the players. Well, I'm getting to a point now in the pandemic. I'm tired of the X's and O's. I want to work with the players hands on. So, uh, and again, I'm just waiting for the cards to be dealt. Then I'm going to play them. I just want them to be dealt.
Yeah, that's a good approach because I mean, there's so many things every day it changes, Andy, and that's just being honest. It's every time you turn around, there's a different time frame, a different model of this and that. And I think your approach is smart as, hey, let's just do what we can today. Let's make May a good month. If we have some opportunities in June, do the same there. And when we go, we go. But again, there's more and more optimism about us having a season of some form this fall, which is great news for all of us. Andy, this audience here is our football season ticket base, and we've been sold out since 2010 for every single game. They
Yeah.
have been tremendous, and I know there's some options for our fans where, hey, if you buy your season tickets and the year doesn't happen, there's a refund option. There's a rollover to 2021 when the new stadium renovation will be done. You can do that as well, or else donate your money to some different areas. So the fan support has been tremendous. Renewal rate has been very good considering the circumstances. But what fans like to hear, Andy, are those good feel-good stories about players who were given a scholarship, maybe a first-generation college student in a family where that scholarship meant everything for them, or a guy who maybe was a walk-on who earned a scholarship and got a chance to do something. So if you can think back to some guys you've worked with at Utah that, that scholarship and that chance to come in and get college paid for made a kind of a change in their life. Can you think of some guys that stand out to you that you've worked with over the years?
Mike, you said you weren't going to put me on the spot. That one put me on the spot. The first guy that comes to mind is Drew Lisk. Drew Lisk is a local player, was a walk-on, was awarded a scholarship before I came back on board here. But there's a guy that does everything right. Right, he's
Yeah.
graduated early, got a 4.0 this last semester. He's a dang good football player. Wouldn't have done it without the opportunity that that he had to take upon himself to walk on and earn the scholarship. Coach Whittingham does a great job recruiting in-state players as scholarship players, preferred walk-ons, and I couldn't spit out the statistics. I know he could in terms of players earning scholarships within the program. I know our tight end Ali'i uh, uh, earned a scholarship this last fall camp, announced that during fall camp. It's unbelievable to watch the players react to that. But you put me on the spot and I'm unable to answer that call. But Drew Lisk is the first player that comes
Yeah.
to mind because he's a Utah man and he worked for it. He earned it. He deserves it.
Yeah, I apologize for that, but I know every time I talk to a coach, I say, listen, just the idea of working with these young people on a daily basis, they come in, they're 18, 19 years old, and to see them leave when they're 21, 22, whatever it is, some, older if they go on a mission and come back. But that day-to-day experience of helping to mold young people and to see them get an education and to see how it changes their lives is tremendous. And without support of our Crimson Club members and endowed scholarships and just their overall support, it wouldn't be possible. So we want to thank all of them for everything they've done, to our season ticket holders as well. And Andy, we appreciate your time. I know this is for everyone unprecedented, and we're all sort of just waiting to see day to day what happens. But we're optimistic there will be football at some point this fall, and we look forward to seeing how things develop. Andy, all the best to you and your family, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you so much. Go Utes.
All right, there you go. Andy Ludwig, offensive coordinator for the Utes. We want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Inside the Headset presented by University of Utah Health, the official healthcare provider of the Utes and you. For Andy Ludwig, I'm Mike Lagishow. Thanks for joining us. Until next time. So long, everybody.